that we're in the process of going out to bid to resolve and fix. And so the sidewalk will also be replaced on part of that, that area of town as well. And then, I don't know if council's seen, but there's a couple of punch list items that are left over from the Taylor Road Improvement Project that are being resolved right now. With all the rain, the decorative brick that we put down that butts up against the sidewalk, that brick settled more than we thought it was going to. And so the contractor is out lifting those bricks up to make sure there's no trip hazards there. So that's in process. WW Molding. The drafting of the purchase agreement is wrapped up. That'll be coming to council next month, and the cleanup portion of the contamination portion will actually be starting on August 5th. So that's in process. And then on the odds and ends, I just wanted to note, so this Friday is the third Friday Family Fest at the depot. We've got the spray pad going to keep people cool because it's going to be hot again. Friday is also our free swim day at Del Oro. It starts at 12:30 to 4:30. And then our finance director, Roger Carroll, celebrated his 21st anniversary with the town on July 1st. So, yeah, you see that?
You celebrated?
He talked to himself with the
visor off and I threw it in the air.
Yeah. And then also, our planning assistant, Carol Parker, celebrates her 12th anniversary with the town on July 16th. So,
okay.
We'll be celebrating Cricket's anniversary next month.
I know how many.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Loomis Chamber update. Jenny, anything? Public comment is coming next.
After you.
After me?
Yeah.
Jenny Nisley, 4135 Hunters Drive, Loomis, Town Chamber Executive. I really don't have a whole much. We just have the leadership. There was an article in the paper about the leadership Loomis. Very excited about this. I attended Rocklands in 2016. It's something that I'm hoping that we can continue year after year. And if there's any questions about that, I will be glad to answer them. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. All items on the agenda will be open to public comment before final actions taken. Speakers are requested to restrict comments to the items as it appears on the agenda and stay within 3-minute time limit. The mayor has the discretion of limiting the total discussion time for an item. Written material introduced into the record. Citizens wishing to introduce written material into the record at the public hearing on any item are requested to provide a copy of the written material to the town clerk. Okay. At this time, we'll open it up for public comment for items not on the agenda.
At the last meeting,
Your name for the record,
my name's
please.
David Lavoie, 7220 King Road. Sean, you said that the old gun store that was hit by the car, as far as it being a hazard and a nuisance and an eyesore, that you sent or were sending out a letter the very next day. I was wondering what's transpired on that as far as being repaired.
It was sent out. Letter was sent out. There's a 30 days, right, Cricket? Yeah, 30-day time period for that to be cleaned up or removed or whatever's going to be done, and then we go to the next phase of the code enforcement process, which would be a fine. So until the 30 days is elapsed, we have to wait for the 30 days.
So after the 30 days, you can issue a fine?
Mm-hmm. There's a process that we follow. It's not like, we send the letter and then we can go in and abate it ourselves. So we have to do the 30-day notice. If it doesn't get cleaned up, we fine. If the fine doesn't do anything, we can start doing an abatement action, but that is a pretty lengthy process too. So we're hoping that the property owner will get it cleaned up on his own volition.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Just real quick, Jenny Nisley. Do you need my address again? Okay. I wasn't at the last two council meetings, and I just wanted to thank you for approving the facade program downtown. I'm really excited about the economic development that can happen down there, and I just wanted to say thank you and congratulations on getting a budget that balances.
Thanks, Jenny. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back to council. Do you have something? Okay.
Paula, David Avenue. Now that the vast majority of our town has spoken loud and clear by a 2-to-1 vote, are you all prepared to start doing the job that your constituents elected you to do? Loomis citizens need you to represent and fight for what's in the best interest of our town, rather than what's in the best interest of the developers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back to council. Adoption of the agenda.
Motion.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, agenda's adopted. Opportunity to comment on the consent calendar. Any?
Jane.
Okay, we're gonna, hang on, we're gonna first give an opportunity to the council. Does anybody wish to pull something off the consent calendar?
I need to pull the library bylaws and move those to next month. We need to continue to refine those with the town attorney.
All right, thanks for the
So-
reminder. We're gonna remove item 10. Okay, public comment on the consent calendar. I'm sorry.
Mine was item 10 anyway.
Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Susan Dobies. I live at 5570 Arcadia Avenue. And I just saw the consent agenda tonight, and I was wanting to a little bit more information on 5 and 6.
There's staff reports available online. Why don't you direct your question to Sean?
I think what you should do, Mr. Mayor, is pull 5 and 6 off the consent, approve the rest of the consent agenda, pull 5, 6, and 10, approve the rest of the consent agenda, and then we'll respond to questions that Mrs. Doise has.
Okay, any objections? Okay.
No.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Any other comment on, any other public comment on the consent calendar? Excuse me, consent agenda? Okay, seeing and hearing none, do we have a motion to,
Move approval on 1 through 4, 7, 8, 9, and 11.
okay,
Second.
motion a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so let's start on item 4.
5.
5.
She said 5.
5, 6.
She said 5, all right. 5, 6.
Did you want to ask your question, ma'am? No? If you can come up to the mic so we can get you on the...
And I'm not that knowledgeable about this, but what is the planning status report in regards to what planning?
So the planning status report is just all of the different projects that the town is currently processing through the planning department. So it could be, some stuff is on there showing as approved, but we've left it on so that to keep it a little bit fresh in people's minds. Others are projects that are underway that we're in process of working on. Planning projects.
Okay, and that is written someplace that I could go read that, or I'm,
I think the best thing you could do is probably talk to our planning director, Mary Beth Van Worst, who's behind you. And if you have questions on specific projects, she can answer those for you. The actual planning report, the status report is in the agenda packet
It's also online.
and online. Yeah.
Okay.
do you want this back?
You want to stay up here for item 6?
Thank you. And the public works, is that just like for utilities, or
Sean?
I'm sorry, what was it?
number 6?
Number 6 is a new report that we put on that's CIP projects that the council has approved, so it provides a status on each of those projects.
And CIP's capital improvement project.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And if I had a question about Costco, should I bring that up now, or was that before the agenda? Well, it was on the agenda.
You can ask it now.
Okay, I've just seen a lot of comments online, so as far as you know, is that still in the works for Loomis? I've heard all kinds of rumors about, because of Rockland, coming in on that and wanting, bumping heads that no, they don't want to do with Loomis at all now.
So, no, that's not true. So I'll say this, that the town's in the process of processing the project. The draft environmental impact report, revised draft environmental impact report should be out within the next couple months or so. And we have a border committee meeting, which is a meeting between mayor and vice mayor of Loomis and 2 council members of Rockland and the city manager staff to meet and talk about the concerns that they have about Costco.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, since you asked about item 6, it is worth noting that the town has, a few months ago, we authorized spending for the maintenance districts in our town for repavement of roads. And driving around town, if you haven't noticed, maybe you have, a lot of that work has been done. So thank you to Public Works for doing that. If you're in a maintenance district, not all neighborhoods in Loomis are in a maintenance district, but many are. The roads are looking great. So good job, Britt. If you want to give a little report on that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, like you were saying, the 2019. So what we did is in the maintenance district, we have 16 maintenance districts in Loomis. About 8 of them had funding and the requirement to do a seal coat on the pavement. So we bundled them all together so we could do a cost-effective project, bundled them all together, bid it, and we had the work completed. We ran into a little bit of trouble. There was a snafu during some of the construction, and some of the work ran late. We had a few issues with that, and it ran much later than we wanted it to, but we did get it completed. So that project is complete, and it's on the list. The rest of the projects that are listed here on the top portion of the CIP update, these are all the projects that we have in motion right now, and currently the status. And then I broke down the status into 5 different categories with a little bit of a definition down below. So if anybody has any questions, you can certainly see me after the meeting. I can answer your specific questions about projects, but this should give you a pretty good idea of what we have in motion. A lot of public works projects take a long time from start to finish. We have to do a lot of environmental studies. We have to do funding. We have to request stuff. So things can get lost. It takes years to deliver these types of projects. So council wanted to have a clearer picture of where we were at. So hopefully this is painting a pretty good picture of where we're at.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Jen.
Yeah, I was going to thank you very much. That was hugely important to me, so that we can, as a council, can see, but also the public can see of all the different projects that we have going. And so thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it.
I'm getting a lot of emails from folks that are happy to see their streets improved. So it's good to get the money out of the treasury, Roger, out in the streets. So thanks. Okay, any other comments on item 6? Any other public comment? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve items 5 and 6?
Motion to approve 5 and 6.
Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 and 6 pass. All right, let's move on to item 12, Pioneer Community Energy. We'll start off with Sean. He'll make an introduction.
Yeah, this item was put on the agenda actually by the request of the mayor. We talked about it briefly at the special meeting that we held. I think that was last week, or might have been the week before. They're all kind of running together. But at that meeting, the executive director, Janine, and I don't want to butcher your last name, Windenhausen? Yeah, well, great. Was not able to attend, and so she is able to attend tonight. And so I will turn it over to her, unless you have anything more to add.
No. Welcome, Janine. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. So By way of background first, just to get everybody on the same playing field, if you will, Pioneer Community Energy is a joint powers authority that was established about 2 years ago between the town of Loomis and the cities of Colfax, Auburn, Rockland, Lincoln, and Placer County. And it was formed for the purpose of providing electric power and other forms of energy to customers at a competitive cost to promote long-term electric rate stability and energy security and reliability for residents through local control of electric generation resources and the overall power supply here in Placer County, and to carry out programs to reduce energy consumption, to stimulate the local economy through developing local jobs and with renewable energy projects, and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions related to electric power use and other forms of energy in Placer County. So what that means from a practical standpoint is that Pioneer Community Energy purchases the power that are used by residents within its jurisdiction who have, unless they have chosen to remain with PG&E. So everybody still gets a PG&E bill. PG&E still owns, operates, and maintains the poles and wires, and they charge for that service on the bill. And if you are a Pioneer customer, they show what their charges are for your energy consumption, but then they take that off of the bill or you know, put a minus sign in front of it, if you will, so reduce your charges by that, and then they put the Pioneer charges on to the bill. So they do all of the meter reading, and then we coordinate with them every billing cycle to get the meter data information for how much the customers have used. So the Pioneer's charges are, in terms of what actually goes on the bill, have been about 30% less than PG&E. However, PG&E puts a variety of surcharges on Pioneer's customers that are embedded in their rates for their customers. So they're not called out separately, although the Public Utilities Commission is conducting a proceeding that would require them to call those charges out separately on their bill. So they add those charges to our bill, and after they add those charges, we know that when the customer looks at their bill, they're going to look at those surcharges and they're going to look at what we charge and then do their comparison to PG&E. So we calculate that in when we are doing any kind of a cost comparison to PG&E. And so Pioneer, from its inception, has achieved a 7% or greater discount to PG&E on average across all rate classes, and it has provided a discount for all rate classes. It has not adjusted its rates for 18 months. Over the last year, wholesale energy prices have increased from 25 to 30%, and over 86% of the budget is the cost of energy. Our operational costs are very, very low. Our operational costs include staffing. We're very leanly staffed at fewer than 5 positions, and it also includes our contract services. And so as a percentage of our gross sales currently, our operating costs are about 5.25%. So nonprofit corporations try to strive for 10%, but most of them are closer to 20%. So we are very lean. We are offering the greatest discount to our customers of any CCA operating in the state. So there are 19 currently operating in California, and no other CCA offers a greater discount than Pioneer has provided to its customers. Pioneer also provides other services. We are very active at the Public Utilities Commission. The average person, the average business owner, cannot participate at the PUC. It is not an open meeting like your meeting tonight. You essentially have to hire an attorney and have it's a legal proceeding. So you have to have a legal representation. So one of the things that CCAs do, and Pioneer specifically for Placer County businesses and residents, is that we provide a local voice that's never been at the PUC before. and we advocate for a variety of things. Most recently, the public safety power shutoffs, Pioneer Voice has helped in identifying at-risk populations. So, for example, PG&E knows who are medical baseline. In other words, those customers who are relying on some kind of medical apparatus that relies on electricity to operate. Within that list of customers, they also have a list who are life dependent on that. In other words, if their power is shut off, they will cease. And so Pioneer has been an important player in identifying other at-risk populations. Just because you maybe don't rely on medical equipment that's electrically powered, you still may be at risk if the power goes off. You might be susceptible to heat or cold or those types of things. And so there are other lists of individuals and people who are at risk during these power shutoffs. We've also been instrumental in identifying critical agencies for notification, such as water treatment. One power shutoff in Southern California caused a sewer treatment plant spill. And identifying other types of populations. So, for example, assisted living facilities, and then businesses that rely on refrigeration, those types of things. Another example of where Pioneer has been active with the Public Utilities Commission is that the Public Utilities Commission was instituting time of use rates for agricultural pumping. And wasn't time of use rates like a resident where they want to charge more during certain times of the day. What they were doing is saying that agricultural pumping could only occur on certain days. And Pioneer flagged this for the Public Utilities Commission by saying, are you coordinating with the local irrigation districts? Because the local irrigation districts are telling the agricultural customers that they can only pump on certain days. And so if you're telling them they have to pump on days where they're not going to get supplied water, you've got a problem with those crops. So these are just some examples of the other ways that Pioneer adds value by bringing that local voice to state policy makers. We're also very active on the legislative front. So we're active in areas regarding rates, PG&E's rates, for all consumers, so on that transmission and delivery side, also on wildfire policy and utility restructuring, given the vulnerability of the three main investor-owned utilities and PG&E's bankruptcy. So as part of its annual budget process, Pioneer reviews its rate structure. As a result of the 25 to 30% wholesale energy cost increases, the need to stabilize our operations, we are actually too leanly staffed, quite frankly. We have a lot of regulatory requirements. It's imperative that we comply with those regulatory compliance mandates, and that we have the staffing that's sufficient to do that. And also to prudently build reserves to protect our ratepayers. By having reserves on hand, if there are spikes like we have seen in California in energy prices, rather than having to return immediately to ratepayers and correspondingly increase their rates, we can draw down on those reserves for certain periods of time to see if we can ride that out and smooth it out for the ratepayer. We also incurred debt related to starting up the organization, and it's prudent that we pay down that debt. That debt was for initial energy purchases. It's like groceries. It's a consumable commodity. It's important that we don't take out a mortgage, if you will, to pay our grocery bill. So it's important that we pay down our debt. Paying down the debt also lowers our cost of doing businesses, and in turn helps to keep rates lower in the long run. So Pioneer is considering rate increases. The Pioneer Board considered a rate increase at its last meeting on July 1st that would accomplish these objectives and still provide a rate discount of 7%. after surcharges. And at that meeting, the board requested additional information and directed staff to return to the board with additional information and alternatives. And so the board will review, further review its financial position at its August 5th meeting and may make a rate decision at that time. I don't know yet. We're still in the process of compiling the information that they requested, and so we'll see what we can accomplish between now and that meeting in terms of providing how that might impact rates. So with that, I would be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from council? Comments?
I've told in the past, when I was making my Pioneer reports, I've spoken to the ability that Pioneer has to reinvest in local projects, and one of them was the biomass energy type of project, or solar and things like that. Is that something that we can possibly look at in the future?
Yes, it is. So that was one of the reasons that we looked at forming the CCA a number of years ago, is we looked at the local resources here in Placer County. So we have hydroelectric resources owned by Placer County Water Agency. We buy certain products. Pioneer has purchased certain products from PCWA and utilized our local resources there. There are also solar projects, and there is biomass, that big, tall facility that's across the street from the casino. It is under contract right now, but there are opportunities to also do biomass. Biomass is expensive relative to the current market, so there would be, feasibility issues, and the board would ultimately determine there's a lot of additional benefits associated with biomass related to forest health, which can improve water quality, also water quantity. In some areas of the Sierra, 70% of the precipitation is absorbed by the forest. It didn't used to be that way. And there are air quality issues. So if the board were to determine that the additional expense was providing additional benefit, they could decide to source some of their power. It would still be a very small portion and probably not impact the overall cost a whole lot, but biomass would be one resource, along with solar, along with hydroelectric. I'm missing another local resource that I'm just not remembering offhand right now. But there's a number. It just so happens that those resources that Placer County have all happen to be renewable resources. We don't have any smokestack resources here in Placer County, that are current or proposed, that I know of.
Janine, I just want to thank you very much for coming to our town and giving us this presentation. It's so important for our citizens to understand. It's a very difficult market to try to understand, and so I just want you to know I appreciate it very, very much that you came out tonight. Thank you.
I want to thank you also, and I really want to thank you for building the organization. It's looking at the reserves, it looks like things are really on the right track. I supported joining Pioneer on behalf of the town because the savings in the aggregate, keeping that money in the community is important. So great job at building. It's clearly saving ratepayers money. And remind us, how much on average are we saving, or residential consumers saving?
Residential consumers are actually saving closer to 8%. Okay. And currently, that's been the case up until a couple of months ago, when then PG&E raised its rates even more. So we're actually, for many rate categories, because PG&E has over 300 rates territory-wide. It uses 95 of those rates in Placer County. And because we are on their bill, we have to have a rate structure that mirrors their rate structure, but what we have control over is the cents per kilowatt within that rate structure. And so they do not, when they raise rates, or adjust rates, I should say, because sometimes they go down, they do not do it evenly across the board. So that's why I say on average, that's why I qualify it that way. But for most of the rate categories, we're now in double-digit territory currently for the last couple of months. And to your point, I didn't mention this earlier, but through the end of March, Pioneer has saved ratepayers in Placer County collectively, and we don't include Roseville because they have Roseville Electric, over $10.5 million. Wow. So we like to think that those ratepayers take those savings and reinvest them. It's probably not a whole lot on each bill, but it's a start, and maybe they're buying another lunch or something more locally than they otherwise would have.
I think, agree. I think there's some differences between what Pioneer's doing and what PG&E is doing. I wouldn't say that PG&E is the model we want to follow necessarily. They're increasing rates for a lot of reasons. One, they're trying to increase their return to investors so they can attract more capital into their market. We don't have that.
Our investors
issue.
Are our ratepayers. They are our shareholders.
That's right. So I am concerned with the proposed 17% rate increase. I think it's too much too quickly. And I'm wondering what else the board is considering, what other scenarios the board is considering.
I don't know, because we are still working on that. And it would be premature to provide that to the council before it was provided to the Pioneer board. And my recommendation to you is that if anybody has specific concerns, that you register that with the board by coming to the board meeting.
Okay, let's open it up for public comment. Thank you, Janine.
Hi, Sonia Coupler, 5630 Tudor Way, Loomis. And I just have a couple of questions about the increase. There were 3 items that were mentioned: staffing, debt, and reserves. And I just was wondering about getting specific information about those 3 things. As far as the debt that was incurred up front and how much of that would be paid off with this increase. What would be the increase in the staffing, and what would that add to the reserves? And I'm also wondering if it sounds like Pioneer is monitored by the PUC as well as PG&E, and if you could just clarify that.
Okay, let's hold all the questions. Let's hold all the answers, Janine, until all the questions come up. If you want to do it that way, or do you want to go case by case?
Okay, I better start writing down then.
Okay. Well, let's make it easy then. Come on up. Can I see a show of hands who has other questions in the audience? Okay. All right.
So I'm going to take the question about the PUC first. Pioneer is not regulated the way that PG&E is by the PUC. The local board, which Jeff Duncan is on that board, and Jan Clark-Kretz is an alternate on that board. So each of our members have a representative on the board along with an alternate. They serve as the regulatory body, if you will. However, the legislature, the California Energy Commission, and the Public Utilities Commission all have regulations with which we have to abide by. So, for example, there are reporting requirements and things like that, but they do not regulate Pioneer and Pioneer's board the way that they regulate PG&E's board. So if that answers your question. And then on the rate increase, and and what it goes. So you mentioned staffing, reserves, debt, but there's also the power cost, which is 85% or more of our budget, and we are in a rising wholesale market. So, so a portion of it will go to offset the increase in prices. Based on the Pioneer Board direction, we are currently recalibrating, if you will, what level of reserves might be set aside and what level of debt. So I don't have an answer for that tonight. But the debt has it was structured to provide some upfront flexibility for Pioneer as it started in its first year or so by amortizing the debt over the 30 years, creating a very low debt service requirement, but it has a balloon payment in 4 years with a recognition that it's a consumable commodity and that it's commensurate with short-term debt. So,
Okay.
I think I answered all of your questions the best I could at this point. Yeah. Oh, staffing. We are looking at not quite doubling the staffing, so going from 5 to 10 people, and that will be done on a ramping basis. So that is assuming, I shouldn't say it's not assuming. It is dependent upon what the board ultimately approves in rates, but they recognize how leanly we are staffed and the need for staff, particularly to help us comply with our regulatory requirements and our filings with the PUC and the California Energy Commission.
I noticed in the financials, to piggyback on that question, I noticed in the financials that you're proposing paying off $6.5 million in debt in the 17% scenario, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the total debt?
14.4 million is outstanding right now.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is smooth that. That was the initial goal, is to smooth that so that in year 4, and year 4, there's also other unknowns in terms of energy costs that it would not trigger a rate spike.
So the balloon
Remember,
the balloon payment in 4 years is how
Pardon
much?
me?
The balloon payment in 4 years is how much?
It depends on how much we pay off
Yeah.
in additional principal between now and then. If you pay nothing, it's 14.4 million.
The entire balloon payment. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. All right.
Is that okay?
I'm good. Any other public comment, questions?
William Quinville, 6280 Horseshoe Bar Road. Mr. Mayor, you commented on one thing about PG&E paying dividends to their shareholders. And that is part of what spikes this and all these new measures that they're doing to get more money from the consumer to pay off their mistakes. That in turn falls back on us through Pioneer because PG&E raises their rates. The big problem is that 17% may not sound like a lot, but when you look at the older aging population in Loomis and throughout Placer County, people like me who are on Social Security and a pension, which, like if I get a 2% raise on Social Security, Medicare takes 3%. So, when you see fluctuations like this, it may not seem like a lot, but it is when you don't have an income that goes up. So I just want to bring that attention, and I think PG&E they're paying dividends and they're getting bonuses and they should be in jail. Just my opinion. They are convicted felons, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment, questions?
My name is Pam Blake. I live on Angelo Drive, and I talked at the special meeting when Janine wasn't here, but I attended the pre-meeting in Rockland at the Chambers. at the chambers, and of course all my stuff is at home in a nice folder, but I'm questioning the thing that I had was an estimation with a postcard, and it basically gave this scenario where you would be saving $24 a year, which I said 2 weeks ago was 50 cents a week. So I'd like to really know, is the savings more than what was put out there almost 2 years ago before Pioneer came into effect in February? Because for me, 50 cents a week, 24 bucks a year is nothing. So I'd like to know more about the average of 7%, because that's a much bigger deal to me than 50 cents or $2 a month. If Janine can give a little bit more detail on that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. How are we doing with forecasts versus actuals?
Well, we're doing very well. We're actually outperforming by our projected rate savings by 360%. So those materials were based on a 3% discount to PG&E, which the board set in December of 2017. We launched, and that was in anticipation of launching in February of 2018. In the interim, March 1st, PG&E raised their rates. And so when we launched, we were actually ended up being at a 7% discount and have been that or more ever since. And so we recently provided the board, well, at the last meeting, we provided a board with a calculation and we used, when PG&E puts out rate increase notices in your bill, they go off of using 500 kilowatt hours a month, which is probably very low. So we went ahead and used that to be conservative, and we did based on the E1, which is the most common residential rate, since inception, and the savings based on 500 kilowatt hours is $80 a year. So it's probably, for the average person, maybe closer to even double that. So again, I want to emphasize here that we're a brand new organization. What we really want to do is to create a stable financial foundation so that we can, the whole purpose of this was really to provide economic benefit to the citizens and businesses of Placer County. And so to build that strong financial foundation so that greater benefits in the form of greater discounts over time, and also in the form ultimately of programs. So for example, if you look at Roseville Electric and SMUD, and even PG&E has rebate programs, but there's a variety of programs. At this point, we're not offering any programs that do not have their own revenue source. So in other words, we're not offering any programs that are ratepayer funded currently.
Okay, let's, Janine, just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me close out and public comment. Sure. Any other public comment? Seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back to council. Jan?
Janine, I was hoping that you might go into a little bit more detail on the 17% increase in terms of there's 3 different options, but I think you mentioned something about that while it would be a 17% increase, the actual bill for the customer would only be about a 6.8% increase.
Yeah, about 6.5%, because, and so let me, thank you for that opportunity to kind of explain what happens there. So every PG&E bill, forget about Pioneer, before Pioneer came along, if you look at your PG&E bill, it has charges for 2 main items. There's a whole list of surcharges that the state and the PUC put on there, but PG&E's two main charges are for electric generation, that is for the electricity, the current that comes across the wire, and then there's a charge for transmission and delivery. That's for the poles and wires for and maintaining them and all of that. In the 70s, during the oil crisis, when we all had to drive 55 miles an hour and we were trying to suppress consumption, the state of California said we do not want the investor-owned utilities to make more money by selling more electricity. So what they did is under the PUC regulatory scheme, they said investor-owned utilities, PG&E, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric, you will get simply reimbursement for your power costs. It's going to be a pass-through, and your return on investment will come from the transmission and delivery side. So there is a whole lot of work that is done every single year to examine all of PG&E's contracts and make estimates about those costs. So what that means is when you're a Pioneer customer and PG&E is subtracting out your cost of generation for what they provide or would have provided and adding on Pioneer's, it's only for that portion of the bill that is impacted. Therefore, on an overall bill basis, it's more like 6.5% is the bill impact on the increase. The other thing is you have to look at, what's 5% of $50 and what's 5% of $100. So PG&E has a bigger rate to begin with. So when they take a smaller amount, it can be a bigger dollar amount, but on a percentage-wise, it's a smaller percentage. So, you have to really look at these numbers and follow them closely. So, thank you.
Ginny, I thought what's impressive about Pioneer is to just copy your message, $10 million in savings over almost 2 years is a lot. And while it might save some people only $25 a year or $50 a year, in the accumulative, that's really important for Placer County. We keep that money here.
That's right.
Not in shareholders' pockets.
And it's only over 13 months that occurred, not 2 years.
That's right.
13 months. So.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? So we're very fortunate to have Janine here. She's in high demand because this has gotten a lot of attention over the last few weeks. And she has not been able to go everywhere because she's a very busy and important lady. So thank you. She is a Loomis native, so maybe she's partial, and we got special treatment because of that. But yeah. So thanks again, Janine.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no action on that item. It was informational only. So we'll move on to item 13, voting delegates to the League Conference.
So each year, the town sends a couple council members to the League of California Cities annual conference, and part of that includes the annual business meeting, where the town would need to designate a voting member for that business meeting. So I'm not 100% sure who's going this year on the council side. I try to go every year, but we need to designate a primary and an alternate for that meeting.
Who wants to go?
I'm going.
And I'm going.
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to nominate Jan
Okay.
Fritz to be the voting delegate.
Okay. Jan and then Rhonda as the alternate. Is that how it
Jeff
goes?
can be the alternate.
Yeah.
He needs that experience. I've done it before.
Well, we can have 2 alternates.
No,
Okay.
well, yeah.
All right, we have a slight motion. I'll second. You second. Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Jan and Jeff, thank you. Okay, council committee reports. Let's start down there. Councilmember Duncan's chair.
Well, I had an awesome report. Thank you. No, I
Sorry, excuse me, let's back up to 13. Public comment, thanks Jenny. Public comment on voting delegates to the League Conference.
Sonia Coupler, 5630 Tudor Way. You had mentioned that there is going to be a member that will be voting at a business meeting, and I'm just wondering what types of things they would be voting on at this conference?
Yeah, sorry. So the league will generally have 2 or 3 resolutions that are presented to the cities who are present to vote on. So one year it was should the cities in the state, I'm kind of making this up, but it sort of like triggered in my mind. It'd be something like, should the cities in the state work towards maintaining local control over transportation funds or something like that. Depending on when the resolutions come forward, I'll bring them back to council to get council direction as a body to the voting member, because they're voting representing the town, not themselves. But sometimes we don't get that packet of resolutions in time either. It depends on when it comes out. So if we can make the August meeting, I'll set it for that. Is it in September or October? Oh, so we should have enough time, hopefully, to do it in September then. They usually get it out about a month before. So I'll be bringing that back for council action to give direction to the voting member on which way to vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment on that?
Hi, Susan Dobies, same address. On the California Cities Conference, is that for the entire state of California, or is that locally?
The entire state.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you just give a summary what the
Yeah, so the League of California Cities is an organization that I think every city in the state belongs to, that provides advocacy basically on behalf of the cities to the state government. The town's been a member, I'm assuming, since we incorporated, right? And then every year, generally, at least one council member will go. It depends on the town. Here, we've been really active. We've had, in fact, Rick Angelosi, the previous manager, was a member of a couple different statewide committees for the league. And I think that we had a council, Miguel was active as well.
He was in the Side Valley.
Very active. And so the league generally, though, is like an advocacy group for cities throughout the state. The other thing that they do, this annual conference, is like an educational conference, so it provides education for council members on all kinds of different stuff, housing, transportation stuff, how to work with your local boards. There's a city attorney track that our attorney goes to on his dime, not mine. There's a city manager meeting there. There's also a city manager conference that sometimes I'll go to that's sponsored by the league. Really, it's a really robust organization for cities and staff to participate in. Very important for the town to be a part of that.
Okay, I'm just wondering, is this for an exchange of thoughts and ideas, or is there anything financial involved? Any exchange of monies involved?
There's a membership fee.
There's a membership fee for to be a member of the league. I don't know if does that answer the question? I don't understand the exchange of money.
Well, if I guess I probably hadn't thought about it too well myself, but is there money that is expected to be given to belong to this?
Yeah, there's an annual dues fee. It's based on population. Okay. And so because we're so small, our I don't remember do you know what our dues are?
About $8,000 a year.
Yeah. But the benefit that we get from that organization far exceeds the $8,000 that we spend. Okay. Far exceeds it.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. Do we want to vote that? All right. Moving on. Committee assignments. Mr. Duncan, are you passing?
Yes.
Okay. Jan, anything to report?
No.
My assignment was SACOG. We have been quiet the last month. Most committee assignments have been on recess for summer, so nothing to report on my end. Ryan, anything to report? PCTPA?
Let's see, the most exciting thing that happened there was approving a contract. There was a difference in the contract for the FSP trucks, the freeway service patrol trucks that you see out on the highway during commute time. And so we now have the hours have been altered to better suit our current traffic patterns, and then also to add another truck to that, which is called an Atom truck. So they do kind of the bulk of the work. They're the pickup truck that you see. So they take accident reports, they help people safely get to the shoulder, and a number of different things when a tow isn't needed. So they do a good portion of the work. So now we have a second one of those. So,
Thank you, Brian. Ron, anything to report?
No, the flood board was canceled yesterday.
Okay. And I noticed we removed future agenda items from the agenda. If I recall, we were going to have the mosquito abatement district come and give us a report.
That's next month.
Is that next month? Okay, great. Any other future agenda items, council? Okay. Seeing and hearing none. Meeting is adjourned.